from Mission San Jose High School, Shruthi Chockkalingam.
Hi guys, my name is Shruthi and my project is about thermochromic pigments and handmade paper. So what exactly are thermochromic pigments? Well, the root word therm means heat and the root word chrome means color. So thermochromic pigments are basically pigments that change color with heat. And we have a couple of options on the market today. So one is like a pure thermochromic pigment which changes color to white at a specific activation temperature. So to get some terminology out of the way, let's suppose we had a red thermochromic pigment that becomes white at 72 degrees Fahrenheit. And we would call this red 72. And this is a reversible process. So when the temperature drops below 72 degrees again, the pigment will become red. Another option we have is actually a mix of pigments, one that's thermochromic and one that's not. So suppose we had the same thermochromic red and we mixed it with a blue that's not thermochromic. So when the temperature is cool, we'll get like a purple, like this blue, right? And when we heat it, it becomes blue. So people have used thermochromic pigments before as a coating for a canvas, like paper or clothing, like this thermochromic t-shirt. But what we wanted to do was something like completely new, which was incorporating these pigments into the pulp of the paper itself. And we wanted to make the user interaction as great as possible. So we wanted to make the paper, which is an ancient technology, as interactive as our Wii's and iPads today. So we had a couple of questions, and the major one was how many colors can a single sheet of paper show? So I talked about the options on the market, and whether you're going from color to white or from one color to another, there's just two settings, one when it's hot and one when it's cold. So we wanted to maximize the colors, like have as many as possible. And this leads us to our next question, which is like, how beautiful can these colors actually be? Because you guys might know from mixing paint when you were younger, that when you like just mix a lot of colors together, you end up getting brown or black, which isn't really what we're looking for. And a couple of other questions we asked were how fast the color transitions could be and how efficiently heat could be transferred within a stack of thermochromic sheets. So there are a couple of applications for this, and one's already like being used right now, which is a thermochromic sticker. And you could stick this on to your furnace or some other appliance, and it'll tell you when your furnace is too hot to touch or when you could touch it. But again, this is just like two settings, and if we are successful in our project, we can go more than that, like in this thermochromic coffee sleeve, which will tell you if your coffee is too hot, just right, or too cold, and you need to reheat it again. But the application that we focused on was the thermochromic book, which will change its content based on the weather you're experiencing and also your body heat. So first, we tested two different types of fibers. One is abaca, which comes from a species of banana plant, and the other was cotton, which I'm sure you guys have heard before. So we have these like huge sheets of abaca and cotton in the paper lab, but to make them into pulp, we need to beat them using the Hollander beater. And basically what that does is separate the fibers, cut them down to shorter lengths, while also engorging them with water in the process. So after we did this, we separated the pulp into 12 batches, and we put like different pigment combinations into each of the batches. So we tested like 6 different combinations of pigments for each of the 2 types of fibers, so we had 12 batches of pulp. But the thing is that when you just like put the pigments into the pulp, you end up coloring the water the fiber is in, but not the fiber itself. So to make the pigment adhere to the fiber, we had to add a combination of chemicals called a retentionate. So after we've done all this, the pulp might look something like this. And this is like purple abaca pulp inside a orange Home Depot 5-gallon bucket. And after we made the 12 batches of pulp, we did some color tests. So we observed the color of the pulp when it was at room temperature, when we put it into the freezer, and when we heated it with our arm. So going from the pulp to the sheets of paper is a seemingly simple process, but I have a long way to go in terms of skill. And basically what you need to do is form a thin, wet mat of fibers and let it dry. And the traditional drying time is 2 days, but since we had a limited amount of time, and also since these were just test sheets, we let them dry for just 1 day, and they were dry enough for our purposes. So this picture shows a couple of plain abaca sheets that I made. And after we made these sheets, we did tests similar to the pulp test, testing of room temperature in the freezer and with body heat. So we also did like a small heat transfer test by stacking the sheets and heating just the top. So we found some pretty cool results, and the first of which was that Abaca is always more reactive than cotton, and also wet sheets are always more reactive than dry ones. And this can be explained by thermal conductivity. So basically, water is more conductive than abaca, which in turn is more conductive than cotton. And this picture shows like our 6 initial tests. And in all of these tests, we added black 72. And the reason we did this is that we thought that at the coldest temperature, the black would mask all the other colors and the paper would just be black. But this didn't really work out the way we wanted it to, and it just made the sheets like slightly darker. So we tried adding like a lot more black, and what that ended up doing was masking the subsequent colors that we actually wanted to show. So in our future tests, we just like ditched the black completely. So, and for the number of colors we got in one sheet, we found that it was possible to get like at least 5 colors in a single sheet of paper, which is like a huge step up from the 2 we had before. So, and we also found out that we can go from one secondary color to another. So just to give you guys a quick review on color theory, primary colors are red, blue, and yellow, and they combine in pairs to form the secondary colors, which are purple, green, and orange. So we found out that we could go from purple to green or from purple to orange, which is pretty cool. And from these 6 tests, we chose our 4 favorites, or the 2 we hated, depending on how we look at it. And we expanded on them by experimenting with pigment ratios. And our winner was this sheet of paper, which you can't see quite clearly in the picture, but it's reddish purple at room temperature, and when you cool it, it becomes darker purple. And when you heat it, like you can see, we heated just the corner there, and that's turned white because of the extreme heat. And on the opposite side, it's still the reddish purple. In the middle, it's like orange, and here's yellow, and here where it's the hottest, it's white. So we also did a small heat transfer test, and we did this by stacking a bunch of thermochromic sheets and just heating the top of it with our hands. And what we found out is that enough heat transfer occurs to change the color in 5 sheets. And as we could expect, the intensity of color on the first sheet was a lot greater than the intensity of the color change on the 5th. And after that, we also layered like 3 or 4 non-thermochromic sheets, just plain sheets of paper, onto a single thermochromic sheet of paper and heating the top of that. And we found out that this also changes the color of the thermochromic sheet of paper. And an interesting thing we found out is that we can track the changes in the paper over time. So what I mean by that is, let's say we have this purple sheet of paper here. So I come and put my hand on it, and it makes a yellow handprint on the paper. And after a few seconds, it starts like cooling, and my handprint becomes orange. And let's say at this point, another guy comes and puts his hand on the sheet of paper. So you can tell which one of us came first by just observing the color of our handprints. So in summary, we found out that 5 distinct colors could be displayed by the same sheet of paper. We can go from one secondary color to another, and enough heat transfer occurs to affect a color change in the first 5 sheets of a stack, and also we can track the changes in the paper over time. So for future work, in terms of the thermochromic book application, we can see what happens when we print either thermochromic inks or just like normal inks on thermochromic sheets of paper. We can also determine the effect of reading times on the amount of heat transfer. And one thing I'd like to see done is thermochromic pigments made a lot smaller, or make their envelopes more polar. So the reason I want to do this is to increase their solubility in water. And the importance of doing that can be shown by one of our earlier sheets of paper, where you can see that the pigment hasn't like thoroughly dissolved, and you got all these spots here. So we were more careful about that in our future. So with that, I'd like to thank my mentor, Michael Powell, for his like support throughout the experiment, and he was just like so helpful in general. His assistant, Naomi Patton, who helped me improve my paper making skills. My TA, Zach Rentz, for like reviewing all my work, and Dr. Lena Kim for helping me with my presentation. And finally, my family and friends who gave me moral support, reviewed my work, and also just put up with me in general. So thank you.
Thanks, Shruthi. Are there any questions?
So how much would like a thermochromic pigmented book cost in the future? Is it like really expensive or pretty cheap to use these pigments?
Well, currently the pigments are like pretty expensive. Like we have to pay like $20 for a kilo, like a couple grams of thermochromic pigment. But in the future, hopefully we can make it more cost-effective.
What are the thermochromic pigments made out of?
Well, it's like a chemical system. So there's dye, developer, and solvent. So at low temperatures, the solvent is like solid, and so the dye and developer interact to form the color. And at higher temperatures, when the solvent becomes a liquid, the developer dissolves in the solvent, and that produces the white color. So yeah.
How long would it take to return to its original color?
The thing is, when we heated it or cooled it, we found that the color change was almost instant, but returning to room temperature took a longer time.
How long?
No, not hours. It was like a couple minutes at most. Yeah.
Hey, thanks, Shruthi. Good job.